I told her, I don't want to work together if it's going to mess up the marriage.
I don't think we were evolved enough to really talk about what is your lane, stay in your lane. That grew out of necessity as we worked together.
Welcome to The Path to Owning It, a podcast by Provide, powered by Fifth Third. Here, we share real stories and raw lessons from business owners who have lived them. Join us as we spotlight one entrepreneur's journey at a time, from the first spark of an idea to the pivots, challenges, and wins that shape their path. Because entrepreneurship isn't a straight line. It's personal, unpredictable, and full of lessons worth sharing. I'm your host, Corey Brown, a marketing leader at Provide with over a decade of experience supporting small business owners. Whether you're just starting out or deep in the game, this is where you'll hear the unfiltered reality of building something that matters. Like what you hear? Follow The Path to Owning It on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you listen. Today, I'm joined by Bob and Jan Gibbons, the husband and wife team behind REATA Commercial Realty in Texas. Together, they've built a tenant-focused commercial real estate brokerage shaped by decades of experience, a clear point of view, and a long-term approach to ownership. Their paths into the business were different, the roles have evolved over time, and their journeys into entrepreneurship didn't happen all at once, which makes their story especially interesting. Bob, Jan, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm so excited you're here. You know, we met a few months back at a corporate event, and I just enjoyed chatting with you both so much. And I found your story super interesting. And I know we talked about the podcast a little bit, so I'm just excited this has finally culminated into you joining me here today. So thank you so much.
We're honored to be here.
For listeners who may not know REATA yet, Bob, how do you describe what you and Jan do and who you serve?
I would describe us as a very specialized commercial real estate brokerage company. We're advisors to companies and nonprofits to help them make better decisions related to the real estate that the organization occupies. We never represent landlords. We only represent the user of the space.
And before REATA became both of your full-time focus as a couple, what did each of your careers look like, and how different were, your professional worlds at that point than they are today?
Really different. I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, and other than that, I did insurance. I worked in commercial insurance. And when Bob started REATA, then I helped him as well.
So I started REATA because I got laid off from another company. So, for 20 years, I was on the landlord side of the commercial real estate business. When the last company I worked for decided to liquidate and everybody got laid off eventually, my time came and we looked around for other things and decided that this was the better solution. At the time, it was difficult for sure. And we had a lot of lean years, but in the long run, it was by far the best thing for us. And I'm really glad we did it. And Jan says she was a stay-at-home mom, and that's true, but she also homeschooled both of our kids.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah, little detail.
It's a small detail.
They tried to forget it for
People
sure.
would say, "Oh, so your wife stays at home?" I was like, "Yeah, she stays at home, but she has a much harder job than I do. I get the easy job. I get to go out in the world and deal with adults. She's at home homeschooling 2 kids and running a household, and she was qualified to do anything when she finished that, more so than I was."
It sounds like it. Yeah. I'm curious what skills from those earlier careers ended up mattering maybe more than you expected for running your business today.
Well, in my case, 20 years representing landlords really uniquely positioned me to represent tenants because I understand how landlords think, what motivates them, how they evaluate transactions. And so all of that helped me learn how to better represent the user, the tenant, even though I hadn't represented them. The thing I never had a problem with was representing them once I had them as a client. The thing I always struggled with was how to get them as a client.
Yeah.
Different skill for sure. But the real estate knowledge, how buildings operate, how they run, mechanically and all that financially, that was great training for what I'm doing now.
Yeah. And Jan, what about you with insurance and homeschooling children?
Yeah. For me, it was definitely time management and learning how to read a contract. When I was in insurance, I was always referring to a policy, but a policy is nothing but a contract. So now I review leases a lot. It's just a different form contract. And so I argue with Bob a lot over this is what the contract says. And it's, very litigious in insurance, as I'm sure you're familiar. So I'm very particular. But I think that's really helped me because sometimes I'll catch a mistake or something was made because I don't have nearly the real estate background Bob does, but I have a lot of contract experience. So it's kind of nice because I'm almost reading it like a disinterested third party who's very familiar with the form. So I think that's what's helped me most.
I'm going to add to that in your case, though, Jan, because Jan is our primary lease administration person in the company. So what that really means is that once we sign a lease with a client, we don't just go away for the next 5 years while that lease goes through the motions. We help them manage the lease throughout the lease term. And that's a lease administration function, which is one of Jan's primary responsibilities at REATA. And so her background in insurance and in everything else she's done has really helped with that. Plus, we have a lot of insurance issues that come up because the lease requires the tenant to carry a certain amount of insurance. It may obligate the landlord to carry a certain amount of insurance. And so we get into a lot of questions with clients about insurance. So in those cases, I'm just like, hey, that ain't me. Talk to Jan. I don't really know, or I'll rope her into that conversation.
Bob, take us back a little bit to 2004. You had lost your job, you stated. I guess I'm curious, have you always had that desire to kind of own your own business? Or is that something that was a new discovery for you during that time?
So I was self-employed for 4.5 years through college and after for a couple of years. And then I went to work for someone else. And then for the next 15 years or so, I was employed by other people. And so when this happened and I got laid off, it was definitely a shock to the system. I mean, 20 years and not having ever been unemployed and being the only wage earner at the time. Jan was, our kids were 11 and 14. She's homeschooling them. It was a shocking situation. In fact, the day it happened, I remember it so well. It was a Tuesday in April. And I called her and I said, hey, you want to grab a Coke or something this afternoon? Just like,
yeah.
How often do we just 2:00 in the afternoon go for a Coke, right? And so I get to the place that we agreed to meet and I walk in and sit down and she's like, you got laid off, didn't you? I mean, I didn't say a word.
She read it into you. Yeah.
There was no fooling around. And
didn't want a Coke after that. Needed something stronger.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so the idea of becoming self-employed again didn't immediately present itself. I did knock around for the next several months looking for the next landlord job. And I got a few offers, but they just weren't interesting. They weren't exciting. You could tell that the landlords that I was interviewing with really didn't view the position that we were talking about in the same way I viewed it, in terms of what the value of it was. So that's when we're like, you know what, let's do it ourselves. I had viewed the corporate real estate advisor, the tenant rep like we are now, as my primary client when I was on the landlord side, because I was an asset manager. My job was to maximize the value in the building. The best way to do that is to keep the building full. And the best way to keep a building full is to have great relationships with the people that bring the deals to you, which are the tenant reps. So that's who my primary client was. That's who I kept my focus on. And then I became one of them.
Yeah. Was that a scary leap to make, working for someone for the last 15 years and then going back out on your own again? Talk to me about your feelings during that time.
Sure. It was really scary. I mean, having not only no income, but no health insurance for the family.
Yeah.
Because that got cut off as well. So I will say it was scary, but it was also motivational. I worked a lot of hours. I would work all day and then I'd come home at night, have dinner with the family, play with the kids, maybe watch something on TV with the kids. And then I'd pull out my laptop and go back to work. So there's nothing like lack of income to be motivational.
I would say so. Yeah. And Jan, let's talk about you during that time. I know you had the career in insurance, you were homeschooling the kids, but you, I'm sure, stayed connected to the business in those early years. What kind of role did that play alongside the other commitments you had at the time?
Basically financial. I would write the checks, pay the bills, receipt money when we got it in.
Which was flying in.
Right.
Deal with insurance, the operation side is what I was doing because Bob was working so hard to try to find a deal. So I was trying to do anything that keeps him on the street, basically. which is still my role today.
Hey, look at that. Let's talk about your role today just a little bit. Fast forwarding to, I think, around 2015, is that when you kind of jumped in together, right, to REATA full time? What changed that made that moment feel like the right time for you to do that?
Bob asked me.
Well, let's be a little more straight. She had worked at that point for 6 years in commercial insurance again, including for a client of mine. And we had gone to lunch, and she was crying at lunch because she didn't want to go back to the office. And I was like, why are you going back to the office? You've said you wanted to quit. You're tired of insurance. Let's pull out a paper. Let's write your resignation letter right now. And we did. And she turned it in later that day.
Wow.
And she's like, but what am I going to do? I said, well, you always claimed you wanted to come work with REATA. So, time to put up or shut up. And so she did.
It was wonderful and scary. I remember it was really funny because I had a commute that had been getting longer and longer just because the influx into Texas. And so the day before I started full-time with REATA, I had taken my house slippers and put them in the hallway going from the master bedroom into my office. And I took a picture of it and I texted it to the children going, oh, look, I got my tires balanced and rotated. And our son, just like that, said, one day out of corporate and she's already nuts. So right away, brought down to earth again.
Yeah.
But Bob had a good point. Before, when I'd worked, I was strictly admin. I wasn't licensed, no background in insurance. And he said, if you do come on board this time, I want you to be licensed because there's a fine line of what you can do. No, you can't do that if you're not licensed, but you can go up to that point.
Sure.
He said, I don't want to mess with it. Just get licensed. So I started in September and I was licensed by Christmas. And then I really started full-time working in January.
Yeah. And, being married is one thing, but working together is another, right? So I guess talk about what kind of conversations you both had as a couple during this time about like things you were scared of or things you were excited for. Take us back to that moment.
Well, I told her, I don't want to work together if it's going to mess up the marriage because I enjoy the nights with you a whole lot better than the days with you. So let's keep the priorities straight.
Right.
We'll make sure the children don't listen to this podcast.
Right. We have to put a new rating on this one.
That was a good point. And it kind of encompassed everything. But I don't think we were evolved enough to really talk about what is your lane, stay in your lane. How does this work? Who reports to that? That grew out of necessity as we worked together. And then more people came on board and it started taking a different function. Bob read a book, wanted me to start implementing some rules in our status meetings every week and that kind of thing. So it evolved and the conversations have been ongoing since then. But as far as sitting down and let's discuss how we're going to run this, I don't really feel like that occurred at the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, I think I feel like we did have some of that because we talked about what the responsibilities and roles were going to be for each of us. The trick is going to be, how do you give somebody the responsibility, but also the authority? You own that. You're responsible for that. I'm responsible for this. And, you kind of have to let whoever is the ownership of that issue be the final decision for that. One of the things that has really helped us, I think, is that I joined an organization called the Strategic Coach in 2019. So we've been working together 4 years at this point, and it's a business coaching program. And so you go into a room with 30 to 50 other business owners, and they take you through a curriculum. And it's all about how do you design the life you want, and how do you design the company to support the life you want.
Yeah.
It's a great program. I highly recommend it. I was in it for 5 years, and that really helped us do some things like doing an activity inventory. So each of us does an activity inventory, not just Jan and I, but agents that we had work for us, where you just have a piece of paper next to your desk and you write down every single thing you do. Take out the trash, do the payroll, cold call clients, go to some networking event. Every single thing you do, you write down for like a 3-week period. And then at the end of that, you assign a rating to it. Either I'm incompetent at that thing, whatever that item is, I'm competent at it, I'm excellent at it, or it's my unique ability, which the unique ability means that you're excellent at doing it and you love doing it. And the goal is to ultimately only be working within your unique ability. Everything else you outsource to someone else. So we would sit around the status meeting Jan talked about once a week. And after we finished the activity inventory every year or two, we would say, all right, these are the things I don't want to do anymore. Who wants to do those?
Yeah.
And somebody might say, oh, I'd love to do that. And if nobody said that, then that's something we outsourced to some third party. But ultimately, we kept trying to get to where each of us are doing only things in our unique ability. Are we 100% there? Of course not. We never will be. But we keep doing that every couple of years, and it really helps because you always start regressing and you kind of start doing things. Oh, it's easier if I just do it myself. So this helps us keep from doing that.
I suffer from that.
I mean, we all do.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a great point. I'm going to take that activity inventory back with me. I love that because I think that's hard to let go, especially when it's your business, it's your baby. I think a lot of people could learn something from that. So thank you for sharing. Up to this point, we've talked about your careers and how they've come together and the decision to fully commit to ownership. After the break, I want to talk about what it's actually been like to build and sustain a business together over time. More with Bob and Jan Gibbons right after this. Are you fresh out of school with big dreams and ambition to achieve them? Or is your current business bursting at the seams and it's time to expand your legacy? If you tend to challenge the status quo and shoot for the moon, Provide's SBA loan may be for you. Our dedicated team of small business experts will work with you to make your ownership dreams, no matter how big, a reality. To get started, visit getprovide.com to see how our tech-enabled small business financing and banking can work for you. Again, that's getprovide.com for when your aspirations of business ownership exceed traditional limits. I'm Corey Brown, and this is Provide's The Path to Owning It. We're back with Bob and Jan Gibbons. Before the break, we talked about how their individual careers came together and the decision to fully commit to ownership. Now, I want to shift into what it's actually been like to build and sustain a business together over time. Bob, Jan, once you were both fully into the business, 2015, 2016, can you share what was maybe harder about running the business than you initially expected?
He didn't do everything I told him to. And that's my unique ability, is telling people what to do.
And them listening, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think learning to own our jobs, I'll always have a bit of a chip on my shoulder because Bob has forgotten more about commercial real estate than I'll ever know. So I always defer to him on subject matter expertise. But as far as making the trains run on time, getting stuff out on time, responding promptly, that's me. And really that works together well because they're such different strengths. But I know I grade on him when I say, have you answered that email? Have you seen the email? Did that email come through? Hey, I think I heard a ding. Did your email come through? I get it. And then I know he's frustrated when I ask him for the 14th time what usable versus rentable square footage means. And, so Google has been a big friend for me. But yeah, I think it's just owning your job and staying in it.
Bob, what about you?
I would say for me, part of my problem is that I kind of ran REATA by myself for so long before Jan joined 100% full time. And so everything got to be done the way I wanted it done. And that, of course, was the correct and best way, right? Well, you throw in another opinion and damn it, another opinion with somebody who's an owner. All of a sudden, my opinion is not necessarily the right one. And I haven't always handled that the right way. It's weird because I don't think I'm really one of those sort of anal guys that has to have everything exactly the way I want it. But in retrospect, as I look at that, there are certain things that I want done a certain way. And I'm sure it's just annoying as all get out whenever I do that. And she's letting me know that a time or two.
I'm sure. Well, let's talk about those times, right? The uncomfortable, the conflict. How do you handle that as a married couple working together?
I really think Strategic Coach helped us because we kind of had an outside person telling us what to do. And so we could kind of go back to the guidebook. And I would always say, you're my highest billed person on the company. When I bill you out, it's at the highest rate. Do you really want to be sweating this detail when I can do that? I want you doing this. At the end of the day, you'll make so much more money for the company. If you leave this alone, let me handle it. It may not be done the exact way he's used to it, but that doesn't mean it's wrong or right. But
Yeah.
a lot of times I go back to his history with the client, and that's invaluable because when I'm dealing with someone, no two tenants are the same. They just aren't. And so when I'm dealing with this person, I click with them. I don't need him. I am just going down the road, and someone else doesn't respond to me, doesn't do this. He goes, oh, no, they don't like email. You have to text. You have to send a smoke signal, whatever.
Right.
He's got that history with the client that's invaluable for me learning how to get further down the road. So I think that's helped me a lot.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah, I would say the one clarification I would say about strategic coach is that it's not a coaching program where you have a one-on-one coach where you're talking to him or her and then they're sort of critiquing the way you're doing business. It is a coaching process where they have a curriculum that you go through and you figure out how you're going to apply their concepts to your business. But what we would do is, since I was the only one that was an official member of Strategic Coach, Jan would go with me to Chicago once a quarter, and I would be in the room all day with the other business owners, but then we'd stay overnight. We'd go to dinner with other people in the program, and then the next day we would stay in the hotel for half a day, and we would go through everything that I did the previous day, and we would talk together about how we're going to apply that to our company. And then we would agree on that. We would outline responsibilities of who's going to do what from here. And so that really helps. So having sort of that outside curriculum, so to speak, to help us together working toward a common goal really, I think, was great. Now, that didn't necessarily solve everything, of course.
Sure.
But it sure helps us see a common goal and agree on what that common goal is. And I think that's really critical. I can see it would be really difficult for Jan to step into the company where I've done everything the way I thought they should be done for so long. And it's still my goal. It's still my vision, all this, and she's just adding on to it. That really allowed us to kind of make it our goal.
Yeah. We talk about the importance of mentors and kind of continuing education opportunities a lot on the show and how that's helped a lot of business owners. Is that something that you still look for outside of, the two of you working together now? What's your new strategic coach, or do you not need one anymore?
Well, no, we definitely need one. And so, well, two things really. One is that we continue to go back through the strategic coach booklet. So every quarter I would go to Chicago and I'd get this sort of a binder. And so we're going back over that. So once a quarter, we're going back to day one of being a strategic coach, and we are going back through those workbooks again together. And this is what we said back then. What do we think now? How do we apply it today or change things today? So that's really good. The second thing is we each have our own circles of influence. So, for example, I have a designation called SIOR. Basically, it's a difficult designation to get. There's like 4,000 people in the world that have it. So, if somebody has one of those, they've achieved a pretty significant amount of production over the years. And so I have a group of 7 people that are in that are also independent corporate real estate advisory firms like ours. And we get together once a month for a mastermind. And we talk about all kinds of stuff that we're all facing, how to do a deal, how to deal with personnel, et cetera. Jan has her own through Crew, Commercial Real Estate Women. So having those two different circles of influence and places to go with peer groups, I think is really good, while also going back through strategic coach.
Yeah. Now, you've both been and stayed active in the industry and community for decades. Do you think having those groups that you just mentioned is something that's allowed REATA to last and evolve while maybe others have faded out over time?
100% for me. I mean, my group is networking, education, bouncing ideas off each other. We get to do a lot of cutting edge things in Crew, and if 2 people are learning the same thing all the time, you're not duplicating your efforts. The thing I like is I learn stuff that Bob hasn't ever heard of. And then he comes back with ideas. I'm like, why didn't we think of that? So it's compounding the knowledge vault.
What's interesting about that, what she just said, though, is that Jan likes to get things done and be done with them. And I'm more Mr. Idea guy. And so I go see things and like, oh, that'd be interesting to do it that way. So I bring hey, I'm going to sit on this webinar on how to do this with this new AI, whatever. And she's like, goodness, just leave things alone for a minute, would you? Let us just do what we're doing.
Please don't. Please don't. So one thing that we've kind of done is Bob has a harder time saying no to salespeople. I have no reservation. So a lot of times if someone hits him up and he realizes it's going where he doesn't want to, he goes, hey, look, that's not in my department, but let me give you the information of who you need to reach out to. And so that's kind of segued some of that disorder.
Yeah, sounds like you guys have really figured this out in the last 10 years or so working together full time. I love that. I want to talk a little abstractly about the business and how ownership has affected you both. Looking back now, how has owning this business really changed each of you, not just professionally, but on a personal level?
Well, I mean, big picture to begin with, I did not want to be self-employed. My dad was self-employed, and I got to see the good and the bad of that.
Yeah.
And Dave Ramsey has a saying that the only thing more addictive than cocaine is a paycheck every 2 weeks. And I think that was so true for me. And it's really forced me to look big picture. I made nothing this month. I made $1 million next month. You've got to average stuff out and group it together and figure out how it's going to roll and you're going to even things out. So I think for me, it made me pan back and get a big picture more quickly. Personally, I think it's actually kind of grown our relationship because we've really learned how to talk so the other person hears.
Yeah.
We have very different styles. Bob goes into a lot of background and detail, and I'm like, done, move. And I had an app on my phone called The Whip. When he'd get going down a meandering path and status, you just shake the thing, and it's the theme song from Indiana Jones with a whip in the background.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I'm not using it as much as I used to.
Shells had one that was a shotgun. She would, like cock in a shotgun and then blast it. She had both of those. She would use those interchangeably. But what she was talking about, she is very much a get it done right now. And it's kind of annoying when I give her something I want her to do to get it off my desk, and it's back in my inbox in like 10 minutes or something, or an hour. And I'm like, no, I handed this to you to get it off my desk. Leave it off my desk for like a week or two, maybe a month. A year would be great.
Right.
No, it comes back at me so fast.
I'm curious too how, Bob, we'll start with you. How has your definition of success evolved since the early days of owning a business? I'm sure it's changed in the time that you've been on your own.
Yeah, it definitely has. When I was employed, I thought that the definition of success was the number of people that worked for me and the amount of money I made and the number of times somebody gave me tickets to go to some sporting event, this kind of thing. And since I have been unemployed, self-employed, which often is unemployed, but I'm intermittently unemployed.
Yeah.
The definition has changed because I really, really, really value freedom. The idea that I don't have to get on a plane unless I want to get on a plane. And I don't have to go to a conference. I go there because I want to. In fact, we have a number of times taken a hard look at our business and said, what are we doing we shouldn't do? I mean, we've just done this. We got out of 4 organizations that we've been a member of for many, many years. I mean, I dropped a professional designation that I had for 28 years.
Wow.
Because we just decided, we don't need to be in that organization anymore. It's not just the cost or even the time. It's just, is it improving our lives? Is it improving our client experience? Is it improving our income? If the answer to that is no, why are we doing it? Get rid of it. Simplify our lives. Give us more freedom. That's really been something that I prize a lot. And when I started REATA, honestly, it was a placeholder until I got the next real job in my mind. And several years later, the real job opportunity came along. And it forced me to sort of say, all right, what are they going to have to offer me to go back to that? Traveling when they tell me to travel and missing out on things at home. And it was interesting because we did a 10-year cash flow projection at that point and just said, if we get no more clients than what we already have, and we just keep those clients, what's our revenue going to look like over the next 10 years? And I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And I got all this freedom. I don't think they're going to offer us enough to make that work. And I never ended up at that company, thank goodness. So being able to have success to me is great income, lots of freedom, and being around people that you choose to be around.
Yeah. Jan, what about you?
In the beginning, you do it because you've gotten really accustomed to eating. And I think that you keep doing it with that mindset, even after you start making money. I have to do it. It's 8 o'clock. I need to be behind my desk. It's you just get in that mindset. And once you kind of step back and go, wait a minute, all the bills are paid. And what do I really want to do? What do I want to contribute to the world? What do I want to get out of the world? And I think it just makes you reevaluate everything. And like Bob was saying, we're trying to get in the habit of every year, at least every other year, writing down everything we do, quote unquote, outside the office. How much the monthly dues are, the yearly dues, whatever. Is this moving us forward? And I think in the beginning, you're just throwing everything against the wall, hoping something will stick and you'll make some money. And then once you start making it, you really need to hone down to your expertise, exactly what market you want to serve, and stay there. And I think that over time, you see how that builds and you start to pan back and go, okay, I'm going to start looking at this a little differently.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Thank you guys for sharing. I'm really curious too, for couples or partners considering building something like this together, what do you want them to really hear about your experience?
Don't do it. I was talking to a girlfriend the other day that was just saying, you're kind of my role model, my idol. And I'm like, oh, no, girlfriend. But she said, not just the business, but our relationship. And I said, I really don't know how well this would have worked, both of us full time, if we still had a young family.
I don't think it would have worked with small kids, not what we do.
So I think that's the main thing, and just make sure it's at the right time in your life and you can focus on it, because it does require constant focus, constant pivoting.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is that when Jan and I started dating, I was still in college, and she worked in her family business, which was an insurance agency that her father had started. Her brother worked in. Her mom would sort of substitute in it whenever needed. And we would go to their house for holidays, and they would sit around all the time and just talk about all their clients and what's going on in the business. I'm like, you people are crazy. You have no life. What's wrong with you? And so I was like, you got to get out of this family business thing. And eventually she did. And then, fast forward, 30 years, and we've kind of come back to that, and we have the family business. Now, we don't have our kids working in the business with us. We've wanted them to. We've talked to them about it, but neither one of them have any interest, and that's fine. But in a way, it's kind of like we're running the family farm.
Yeah. For anyone listening who's connected with your story and wants to learn more about your work, what's the best way for them to find you or to get in touch?
They can find us online. Our URL is texastenantrep.com, R-E-P as in Paul. Our company name is REATA Commercial Realty, but that got to be kind of a pain to spell out for everybody every time. So we just went with a URL that was descriptive of what we do. So texastenantrep.com. I'm at Bob at Texas Tenant Rep, and Jan is Jan at texastenantrep.com. So that's real easy. And, we do have a podcast that we have 117 episodes of, but we honestly haven't recorded a new one in about 2 years. So, but it's all evergreen info. So go listen.
There you go. Well, Bob, Jan, thank you just so much for sharing your story and being really honest and candid about what ownership has looked like for you. I just really appreciate you being on and helping our audience learn more and weigh their options when it comes to ownership. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you. We enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to The Path to Owning It. No two journeys look the same, but every one is full of real moments, raw lessons, and stories we're sharing. We hope today's episode gave you something to take with you on your own path. If you enjoyed the show, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps more listeners find these stories. Know an entrepreneur whose journey we should feature? Let us know in the comments or reach out on social. The Path to Owning It is brought to you by the team at Provide, powered by Fifth Third, where we back small business owners like you. If you're ready to bet on yourself, head to getprovide.com to explore tools, resources, and financing and banking options crafted to help you build your legacy. This show is produced by PodCamp Media, branded podcast production for businesses. That's podcampmedia.com. Producer Dusty Weiss, editor Matt Covarrubias. For Provide, I'm Corey Brown, and to every small business owner out there, your story matters. keep writing it.
Provide is a division of Fifth Third Bank, National Association. All opinions expressed by the participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Provide, its affiliates, or Fifth Third Bank. The participants' opinions are based on information they consider reliable, but neither Provide, its affiliates, nor Fifth Third Bank warrant its completeness or accuracy and should not be relied upon as such. This content is for informational purposes and does not constitute the rendering of legal, accounting, tax, or investment advice or other professional services by Provide or any of its affiliates. Please consult with appropriate professionals related to your individual circumstances. All lending is subject to review and approval.